Okay, today is the 13. So 13th of May. 13th of May.
June.
Now it's June now. Oh, I always get confused now. 13th of June, so we're reading the common Buddhist text. We come to actually the line 45, so this is not line, I mean the life of the Buddha, 45, life dot 45. We have to today we have to cut short. I guess firstly, we don't need to read it now. I presume that you have read the story even maybe last time. So we just only had to go through the story first. I will just read the paragraph, the introductory, and then we can just go through the main point and we have a discussion. We can have the class a little bit earlier, finish by earlier. So because tomorrow we have 3 days of big event here, and then we might still have many work to do. And also looks like a lot of people didn't turn up today even. So maybe they think that you have work to do, so they don't want to come. I'm just joking. So. All right, now, like the life of the Buddha 45, this passage described how the Buddha tamed this murderous bandit who had terrified everyone else, so that he then ordained as a monk, and a king seeking to overcome him came to respect him as a monk. Beyond the section below, Angulimala goes on to help a woman with a difficult childbirth by the power of his truth utterance that he had never killed anyone since his birth. That is to say, since his birth as a noble person. He goes on to attain awakening, though later becomes bloodied from people throwing things at him when they recognize him. The Buddha urged him to patiently endure this as the karmic result of his past actions, which would have led to thousands of years in hellish rebirth if he had not radically changed this way. The passage contained a message about the reformability of criminals. Now, this sutta actually is the title is about taming the murderous bandit Angulimala, while the word anguli, it means fingers. Mala means garland. Definitely this is not the name, it just refers the way to call him. He used the finger to make it as a garland, right? So that's why I call Angulimala. According to this text, this text it's actually on the back say the Angulimala Sutta Majjhima Nikaya, volume 2, page 98 to 102. Well, that refer to the Pali Text Society, volume 2, the Pali text, original 98 until 102. Well, generally you can say this is from the Majjhima Nikaya, or the Middle Length Discourse, 86, number 86 Sutta. Now this Sutta actually is not only in Pali, but you also have the same in the Madhyama Agama, 就是中部, 中阿含 in Chinese. I cannot remember the number, but they also have the same sutta also. So in other words, you could see that this sutta is very popular. Now let me just give an abstract of this sutra first. Well, basically, the bandit Angulimala, he was actually doing a bad thing. Basically, mean cutting other people's fingers. Now we are not sure yet whether when they cut their finger whether they will really kill them, murderers. But in the general tradition, explain that he murders them, so that after they murder the people and then cut their fingers. I kind of doubt that. Maybe I think it's a little bit exaggerated. This is just my own version. Certainly in some Chinese version also implied that he did really kill people, I think. But let's just first understand the story. Say that the bandit living in the territory of the king Pasandena in Kosala. And then this murderer he was murderous, bloody-handed, given to the blow and violence. Anyway, that he's merciless to the living beings. Now, one morning anyway, the Blessed One, taking his bow and robe, went to Savatthi. And then at that time, he went to walk in one road that leading towards Angulimala, right? And lots of people, the cowherds, shepherds, and plowmen, anyway, travelers saw the Buddha or that wanted to go that road, warned him he shouldn't go that way. But looks like the Buddha insisted. So, of course, then in other words, that road that where the bandit Angulimala always stays. Now, what happened at that time? So when the Angulimala from a long distance saw the Buddha and he think that way, it is wonderful, it is marvelous, man. These people, even though they're even 10 to 40, such a powerful person, he able to, even if they come in a group, he still can able to, kind of like kill them or tame them. But now just this renunciation just alone, and he could do that. So of course the story say that then he took his sword and then shade and buckle on his bow and quiver, and he wanted to just follow beside the Blessed One, the Buddha. Anyway, so then the Buddha used a supernatural power and he couldn't catch the Buddha. So when Angulimala couldn't catch the Buddha, he asked the Buddha to stop, and then the Buddha replied later on saying that, I stopped, but you didn't stop, And he said that, and he realized then must be a saint. Well, according to the Chinese version, even though he didn't use the word mean, he used a supernatural power, but the commentary did say that, not in the sutta. The commentary, even in the Pali, say that he was using the supernatural power so that the bandit Angulimala couldn't catch him, the Buddha. Now the Chinese is very clear to use. He said he used that the Chinese version was not in the Madhyamagama, but in other versions, because there are so many places in Chinese version record about Angulimala. It's a very popular story. That's what we will discuss a little bit later. So anyway, he said that he extend his power by doing the Buddha can extend the land and strengthen their land. That's the reason why he always find the Buddha really, it's kind of like the Buddha extend the land. And the Buddha didn't walk, right? He extend the land, shrink his land. So then it show like they're like running to him. But to the Buddha is standing there all the time and he never can reach him, okay? It's a meditation power that you could change the earth element, extend the earth element. Okay, understand what I'm saying? Okay. Well, you could understand this very, very. You have to understand this story came at least 2,500 years ago, and they have a really very, very powerful. If you don't believe in miracle, then you could still say imagination. They have a very powerful imagination. But then anyway, so. But then he was surprised that because he also claimed that but the Buddha didn't tell the lie. If he walked, then the Buddha said, I'm walking, why don't you catch me, right? But the Buddha said, I didn't walk, but you are only walking. So, why you ask me to stop? So why don't you stop? So anyway, and that time he was saying that of course he was really convinced by that because he knew that even the horse and the elephant, he could seize it. In other words, he also could run very fast. Okay, maybe a little bit exaggerated, but definitely mean he's much powerful than normal people. That he could seize even a horse and an elephant. But why he couldn't even seize the Buddha? So okay, so that's why he asked him to stop. Anyway, then let me just read that one. Then the bandit Angulimala considered this renunciation. The Sakyan speak truth, assert truth, but though this renunciation is still walking, he says, Angulimala, I have stopped, you stop too. So, of course, he didn't think that the Buddha was really not walking because, I just said that how the Buddha performed the supernatural power. Then then that's why then the Pandit Angulimala asked the Buddha the question, Renunciant, while you are walking, you tell me you have stopped. But now, when I have stopped, you say I have not stopped. Renunciant, I ask you now about the meaning. How is that? You have stopped and I have not. And he say, the answer is, Angulimala, I have stopped forever. I abstain from violence towards living beings, but you have no restraint towards things that live. That is why I have stopped and you have not. Okay. So then when the Pandit Angulimala heard this, and he flung the sword, the weapons, in the carom, and then he asked the Buddha to ordain him. So this is what we call the Ovada. I forgot. Ovada Bhattimokha, maybe. Ovada Upasampada. It means that just during the Buddha's time, you don't need to go through a long ceremony, to take like how many precepts. In that time, there's no any so-called monastic rule been laid down. So the Buddha only just say, come, come with me, ehipasiko, come and see with me. Then you will just ordain as a monk immediately. Okay, that's you could say that actually this is how the ordination in earlier time, during the Buddha's missionary time, earlier time, that's how it wasn't really like, oh, you have to do this and that, and then you have to follow how many monks' rules and so forth. They didn't have that. But maybe even that lasts for more than 12 years. Okay, that's why it's very important to learn history, But maybe you could argue that just 10 years or what, but that definitely for the first very early years they don't have that. So, if you just bring that the people to see the Buddha, and the Buddha just say come, and then to come to see the teachings, and then they will become a monk. That's kind of like the ordination way. Anyway, after and then the stories say later on, but it's kind of like a big gap, we are going to analyze this a little bit later. So like a big gap, and later on, then the Buddha back to the Savatthi with Angulimala as his attendant. Okay, so it doesn't. I'm sure that when you read this, you can conjecture already, because as I say, Ananda was after the Buddha was, I think when the Buddha started to preach more than 25 years. I cannot remember exact number because I'm not very good at this, but definitely more than 25 years. Before that, I said that last time that he had about 6 attendants before, but you could count Angulimala as one. Okay. And then also, I think last time I did mention about his name. I think, so this is why somehow you can roughly guess. Angulimala, who was a bandit and believed in as a murderer, he actually been converted by the Buddha, maybe, as I say, within the 12 years, maybe, or even, maybe within 12 years, maybe even later, but certainly before Ananda. So that time, then the rumors comes, that the news comes to the King Pasadena that Pandit, the Pandit Angulimala now actually around. I guess generally the image about Angulimala, he's a huge guy, muscle, big guy, like a warrior, really like a warrior. And of course, he was so afraid, kind of like, like he's a very powerful, like a warrior, okay? So, but then that's why when he knew about that news, and also later he heard the news that actually he was with the Buddha, right? And that's why, and this is an Indian culture, or maybe you could say those days, the culture, and different culture have used in different kind of language to ask the question. So in the culture at the time, according to the sutta recorded, so then the king, Pasadena, asked the Buddha, don't you kind of like, let me see how he asked already. Okay, say, he say, oh, actually, he didn't ask the Buddha. It's the Buddha said to him, "Great king, what is it? Is the king Senadiya, Bimbisara, Magadha attacking you or someone? Or anyway, those few countries, Pasadena living in Kosala is one of the big country. And then another big country is the Bimbisara in the Magadha. And another one is in the Lichavi in Vesali. Anyone know about that? What is the Lichavi in Vesali? Anyone can say anything about that? No. That's why I say learning history is very important. Otherwise, your concept is only thinking certain element. Well, Bimbisara is always, as a king of the Kosala, Magadha, as the king of the Magadha, always want to attack this Pasadena, the Kosala, okay? And also Lichavi is also one of the big, there are 4 of them actually, these 3 are among them. Lichavi is also one of the big places, which is more democratic because they don't really have the king. The king was not by heritage, like passed out by the father to the son, but he's always selected, okay? Almost like they were like selected by the councils, like that, that's in the Lichavi, on Vesali, okay, in the Vesali. Anyway, so, but then, and then the Buddha say, but there is a bandit in my territory named Angulimala who's murderous and so forth, and I shall never be able to put him down. This is who said that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember the king said, I mean, why? Yeah. But why it looks like it's not very clear here?
The first, before this paragraph, the king asked the Buddha, "Sire, the bandit Angulimala is in your territory."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then later on, then the Buddha said, great king, suppose you were to see the Angulimala has shaved off his hair and bare, put a yellow robe and go on forth from a home life to homelessness. And in other words, he's abstaining from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, from false speech, that he was eating only 1 meal a day and was celibate, virtue of the good character. If you were to see him, then how would you treat him? Of course, the king saying that he will respect him, But anyway, then Angulimala, as an attendant of the Buddha, was sitting not too far from the blessed one, the Buddha. So, and then that's why the Buddha extended his right arm and said to the king Pasadena, "Great king, this is Angulimala." Of course, then the king Pasadena was frightened and terrified. So then, knowing that, the blessed one told him, "Great king, do not be afraid, there's nothing for you to fear from him." Now, but with the assurance of the Buddha, so the king, went over to the Venerable Angulimala and said, "Master, are you a venerable sir?" In other words, are you a monk? We maybe just simply say that, because the language means, are you venerable? So, and then, it's traditional that you ask who's your father and who was your mother. So, and he say, my father is Gaga, my mother is a Mandani, okay? So, and then, traditionally it would say the noble Gaga, addressed the father name. And then the son of the Mandani, the mother's name, the son of the Mandani, live in like just 知足 in Chinese, so in content. So he would just provide all these ropes and arms and so forth. But he was, but then Angulimala, I think here the sutta is interesting. He put this, they say, at the time when Angulimala was a forest dweller, an alms food eater, and a refuge rag wearer, and they restrict him to the 3 ropes. So that's why I say he have enough, he doesn't need it, Anyway, then after that, then he said that King Pasadena left, and he said because he have the duty to do. Now, this is interesting if you really are always reading the Majjhima Nikaya, the Middle Lamp Discourse, you do find this sutta is so popular, but I mean, this sutta still, a certain kind of the passage are very unusual. Many passages. I mean, this is, if you often read sutta, you could find it looks a little awkward in a certain way. But the story is fine. We know that that's how they're dressing and talk. But then, here he had to mention that, actually, why the Angulimala had to refuse the king giving him the robe, because he's having those 3 vows, as a Dudanga vows, Now, okay, we can come to discussion now. That's how the story, as I said, is very, very popular in any culture. I don't know, but of course, maybe later on, even Chinese also, even if you're really learning Chinese Buddhism well enough, we are not talking about just normal folk and just come to worship in a temple, but anyone who actually learn reading some Buddhist texts, they definitely know the story of Angulimala, and there's so many different versions of saying. Now, this story is first, I think it creates some other interesting thing. One thing is about a murderer could become a monk, okay? And the other interesting point is about, and he also at the end become Arahant, okay? And of course, in many ways, people trying to show that he actually, the Buddha is the most compassionate one. He even actually could take a murderer to be have a power to convince him, to be a good, change it to be a good person. Not furthermore, and then he even can at the end attain arahantship. So now a lot of it is a very hot debate topic. I'm not going to address that why, but that's why you have to learn discussion. You have to think, after when you read this story, what do you think? Or any question or any comment first. One thing is about the passage I forgot to say. Even it's not record here, I think that the monk who translated this text, I did mention, he say later on, and he also recited a text, for the labor. When the woman having a labor, and then it become a tradition in Sri Lanka especially, and then they will chant the sutta for people, for the woman when they're pregnant, have to be, as far as I remember, has to be after 6 months, I think. Yeah. If I'm not wrong. Definitely not before 3 months. Well, that's for sure. Yeah, but after 6 months. So, and then usually they ask the monk for blessing, and this is the verse they chant. Because at that time it was said that when the Angulimala once, when he walked by a street and he saw a woman having a difficulty to deliver the child, and I don't know why the story sounds a little bit strange too. Then he went to see the Buddha, and the Buddha told him, you could just utter the words like that. So the meaning is simply saying that, I was born, since the day I was born as a noble person, I never committed any killing and harming other. So with this kind of truth of the word, so may you live, may you be smoothly. He didn't say the laboring, but may you be smooth and so forth. And he said then the child was born smoothly. But this actually have a lot of different versions of saying, because in Chinese, according to the Chinese, because this is not included in the Samsutta, but according to the Chinese, other passages saying that places say that Angulimala actually he wasn't really seen a woman was delivering, because I guess maybe to a certain culture, a woman delivering on the street, having a labor difficult in the street. Yeah, maybe it happened because he always walking in the forest, but still doesn't sound very. You must understand that 2,500 years ago, okay, not now. Even now, you think it's might be I guess might be that reason. Maybe it's true also. The other version saying it was not. Other version was saying that it was the elephant delivering the child having a problem. Okay.
I don't know where I read the story, but from Chinese version, it was Angulimala was helping a woman delivering.
Yeah. I know the Chinese also have, but the another passage, another Chinese version, Ekutara actually, the Ekutara, 就是正言函. As far as I remember, it was elephant. Yeah, but generally, of course, the Chinese, you had to see sometime. I think there were many places Chinese record, and they also say a woman. But there's one other places in Ecuador said that it was an elephant. Yeah. Now, I mean, why I want to say this to you guys, when we're reading that thing, we are not reading because it asks you to believe or what and so forth. You could see that there are so many different versions of saying. This is why it's very important if you are really doing a serious study, and then doing a comparison. Because when you do the comparison, you do find there are many things that are common there, but some other things are not necessarily the same. Why? We don't know the answer, but we definitely know the common thing mostly because there was agreed upon by everyone, but some either they change it for some reason, maybe cultural reason, or maybe actually they were when that really been seriously kept, and it was actually have the different version already, and many other reasons.
Because of translation different.
No, you cannot be. The word is not something you could say because they are misreading the word. For example, when the Buddha passed away, he was really actually been offered the food by Junda. And then the word actually, in Sanskrit, it could be translated, mostly understand as a pork. But sometimes in a certain dialect, somehow you could even, because there's a kind of figurative language about the word as like a mushroom that will poison you. That's the reason why you could argue about that was a word like, could be a mushroom, not a pork. If you're a vegetarian, if you think the Buddha was supposed to be vegetarian, definitely you don't want to say he was last meal was a pork, eating the pork and get poisoned. But those are words you could argue because of language. But elephant and the women are big different word. It shouldn't be. Yeah, they couldn't be a mistake. Definitely the people either because they didn't want that story said it was a woman because a monk saw a woman delivering.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean a monk. Yeah, especially and the monk is a Dudanga. The total. So observing the Dudanga, it couldn't be. Anyway, we don't know that there be high reasons, but all these general, I think the Angulimala story there are a lot of conformity, a lot of the same stories there. And as I say, this is a very controversial story. I'm not going to point out what. But anyway, any other questions? Any comment?
Yeah, but if the kind of thing happened in modern day time with law, then there's no way this person can escape the punishment of
it's true. Well, but you
India.
No, in India and same as in China in old day, the same in China. Even though we don't really know the Shaolin's story was really true, but there was true that actually, I think during the Tang Dynasty even earlier definitely, that if any crime, one who committed any kind of crime, if they change their life and become a monk, and with the permission of the abbot, if even the king or any so-called, what do you call that term, is the law enforcer, and if they was question about that, if the abbot could assure them this guy is changed, so then they would not take them to the court as well, even in China. In India, the same. Yeah.
That's in the ancient time.
Yeah, in ancient time. So in the Buddhist time, definitely that is no question, because they. But as I say, usually if you have question, you have to ask permission from the abbot, saying that he was committing a crime. Is it true? He is really now changed. So in that is very interesting point also to point it up. This is a reason why from early time Buddhism always, when you study law, you have understanding from Buddhism from the early time. That's why Buddhism are always believing in reforming, what we call the reforming law. I think, yeah, that yes.
I have a question. From the Karma's point of view, Venerable Anguli Lama, he has killed so many people. Did he go to hell?
No, he became Arahant. How can he go to hell at the end? Even though according to the story and the last, before he passed away, he was beaten. Yeah. He bled a lot. He bleed a lot, and he was always being beaten by people. Yeah.
So
that's his karma.
That's
his karma.
They say 现世报.
Well, there's a Chinese way of explanation. I'm not necessarily, yeah. But even actually, not only Chinese, but in the Pali also explained he had to face because explaining about karma with regard to him, one is explaining saying that like you say, he had to face the karma in this life itself, but he doesn't have to follow the karma in after the life. Yeah. He doesn't have to get the result from that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, any other question?
I
No
found
comment.
this is the most poetic part. What the Buddha told him that I have stopped forever. I abstain from violence towards living beings. I mean, it's to me it's more like a Zen way, to just say some few words and then, but the meaning is so profound, so deep.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about Zen in this way. Like I always encourage all of you to see in YouTube. There's a movie, right? The Dogen, Dao Yan Chan Shi. I asked you to go, but did anyone go to see? You don't care, because why? You must learn that. Like the same thing. Like we are either you could say that you are Chinese, you are Taiwanese, or anything. A lot of these so-called white people or black people or whatever people you like to say in America, they have a lot of presumption to think about, oh, you are like that, you are like this, right? I always tell people, even if you study Buddhism, don't live in the ghetto, okay? Don't live in a ghetto. You think that, oh, I learned a pure Theravada. Every country they say they're pure Theravada. Every monk they say they're the pure. Always they say like that. You are in the ghetto. You don't want the people to think that. So in order to understand that, read what the people doing.
What do you mean ghetto?
Ghetto, like in old day, usually this term highly used, GHETTO. Yeah, it's not only that because they are, in old day like that, the Jewish people was for forced to only living in the area, cannot go out. So yeah, you have to be really careful about this kind of thing. I told me a lot of people don't want to accept that. They like one thing from me. This is not true. It cannot be like this because there are so many blind spots we always have. Think about So it's the best is to expose. Why I want to say this because since you mentioned about Zen, I also mentioned the movie, because when you, of course, some aspect may not necessarily the same as our aspect, but if you really look at the movie, see the way he think about the main essence of what the Zen should be, and you find, I myself, except maybe there's something, I'm talking about a movie already, and when you read what he was saying, it's just a different expression of language. Yeah. You don't see that, oh, this is completely is not a Buddhism like that. You have no way to find there's anything wrong with anything what they say at all. But you know, sometimes we read other people's book. I don't agree. What? Do you think this is Zen? So I don't. So this is what I'm saying. Because some people have a wrong impression, you read something wrong already. You have to read what the origin is saying, you know. And then you have a wrong impression. And these people, they don't know anything. Why you want to believe that these people? You definitely have to read the origin of what they were saying, right? This I tell you. Like, I like he say one word. He helped me a lot. Actually, one day I was not really. He say, because he would, in the movie, he would keep on saying one word, 身心脱落. Yeah.
身心脱落.
Yeah. He kept on saying the 身心脱落. He thinking the meditation is one of the very important key points, 身 and 心脱落. But, you know, and those days, when I heard that, I was really like, oh yeah, that's true. You just kind of like. Now, I last time we have a class, I told him already. And I was surprised, you know, because even in Pali, I thought, not that I kind of presume Pali doesn't have this. But when I read it, the Pali have the same word exactly. Because, you know, the Pali, you translate, and old day the Chinese translate, they don't translate, I forgot to translate what. But exactly the word, the Buddha also say, you have to be able to meditate until your sun and sin strip off.
Strip off?
Yeah.
Use that word?
Yeah, strip off your mind, your body and mind. So, don't think, I mean, I'm not thinking about nowadays what the Zen is doing and this is not my business. We're talking about, since we're talking about the teaching, the Dharma, we just only talk about Dharma and that. Yeah. So, maybe his enlightenment or maybe he just attained the first fruit, I don't know. Well, so maybe, you know, maybe he didn't want to claim anything. You know, according to the old culture, even if they attain anything, they would not claim. Because, you know, it could be very controversial also, you know. Anyway, all right, any other comments? So when you say you look like a Zen, I just want to say it's more about your translation also sometimes. Sometimes you could translate very, very Zen way. And I like to say one more story before. One more story. I mean, I always say that one of my realization. I'm not talking about my meditation realization. My sudden realization. My realization is with my mom one day. I think I said the story in the past. That really made me suddenly understand so many things. Is when we went to a very famous meditation center. Big, I'm not going to say the name. We went there to meditate. I took my mom over there. And we lived there after 3 weeks, I think. Yeah, at least more than 2 weeks. I mean, 3 weeks. And we found that the method they taught was no way to progress. And we have one monk who was supposed to be like a teacher who always sit with us. Except, you know, it's several times now. We only go in there for retreat. We don't do anything, just meditate. But we ask him questions. He keep on repeating the same word for us only, like a few words and this and that. And anyway, later on, we thought that the technique was not not working. We think, you know, it happened, you know. Sometimes people say, oh, this is a good place, but the method is not working. That's why I had to find an excuse, because I told them we're going to live there for, you know, for a few months, and now we leave. How can we just, it's not very nice. And the abbot, it will be treat you very nice. And it's very, very powerful, very rich temple. Even the prince and forest and all this, you know, give them to go. Very beautiful place. And I had to find an excuse. Of course, I found one excuse. I mean, you can always lie and make some excuse. It's not lying, just find an excuse. Anyway, so before we have that, and then we have the deal. The deal is that I said, you know, my mom doesn't know English, so I say, I would definitely also, because I'm a monk also, and I will talk to the monk, and then, pay the last respect. And because the second, what we call the wise abbot, went to see us, the abbot was out already. And then we have a deal. I asked my mom do her job, and I do my job. And then I was talking to the monk, the wise abbot, and the monk was suddenly, he was talking to me like, oh, why you leave? He very friendly and very nice. And suddenly he stopped. He turned his head like this. My mom didn't face to him. It was like this kind of, He said, what are you looking? The word is, what does only he say? What are you looking? What you're looking I used to do, now I don't do anymore. Now what you have seen, don't tell anyone. That's all he say. Like a Zen, right? Mm-hmm. And I know why he won't say that. I remember he has an attendant who was like surprised why the master never do that, and suddenly he can talk to me and turn his head and say, what are you looking? Oh, what you see, don't tell anyone. I used to do that, now I don't do anymore. So the attendant, because they are the temple is very big, more than that time when I lived there, more than 3,000 monks, 2,000 monks lived there. So, and the attendant was writing what the big, he's a big monk. Imagine so many monks there, he must have a lot of, and right, he didn't understand what he said there. I just smile. Of course, I'm not like enlightenment smile, but I definitely know why he said that. At that time, I translate to my mom, because my mom was also curious. What? 他说什么? 他说什么? She was really like curious also. Then at least I can do translation well. I mean, I don't add anything. I just directly translate to her, and then she say, oh, then I want to ask a question. So we asked a question about something we have anyway. I'm not going to talk the detail. And then the monk point out, of course you did it wrong, because this method is nothing to do with the jhana. You can use a jhana method. And he pointed out, you have to do this thing. Since we have to make apology that we have to leave tomorrow, that's why he agreed to see us. So we left the place, but the difference is that we went to other place, but at least we returned. Then we say, oh, since we have made the arrangement, so we will come back after the trip. So he says, sure. Once you come back, and someone will pick us from the airport, and because we are not meditating in Bangkok, in other place, it travel very long. He said, we will pick you up and drive you back here also too. Anyway, back basically mean that not only that, then after that, we went back to meditate. It's work. We've been trying to work that for more than at least 2 weeks. We were there already, but there's no way to break through. And we asked the teacher, it's not working. But when we met here, only just say, this, that, here. Oh, okay. Then completely gone, like that. Just one word. This is why I understand sometimes, in the old day, might be, that's what I mean by Zen. Nowadays, if you don't know you never practice a method, you don't know what the method is, you don't know what happened in situation, condition, and of course you can guess, right? Oh, what are you looking? What you see is I don't see, and what I see I don't see anymore. You could say, oh, it means when you see the Dharma, don't see the Dharma. You can say anything you like, right?
Sounds like the Chinese.
riddle.
Yeah, but I can tell you later when it's not recording what we see. But I think. Okay, is it online? You have something to say? No, we are going to end. Only end we will say it when it's not recording. Yeah, but online you can hear the story, but at least the recording will start. Yes, any question?
Yes, very well.
Yes.
I have a question. So when I read the story, so this because after he heard the Dharma and he paid face on the Buddha, so he wanted to become a monk, and the Buddha showed his compassion and approved he to become a monk. And my question is there any case that a person wants to become a monk but the Buddha didn't approve it?
Not that I remember that, but definitely there's a case that they say that lay people want to take refuge, the Buddha didn't approve. Yeah. Not about becoming monk. At least maybe I couldn't tell exactly, but not that I remember, I say. But definitely there are several cases when the lay people say they want to become a lay person. As a lay Buddhist follower, the Buddha say, don't wait, don't do it right now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess today, because of time reason, I will just end it here, right? And thank you for the attendance. I can tell the story when the camera is off. Okay, thank you, and I will have a class next time. This is fine. This online is fine. They don't do recording. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Make sure that they are
Yeah.
not recording.
You can see a recording spot on the right up corner.